I have a little confession that I have to make to all four of y'all.
Okay.
So I sent to our patrons, basically every day I send them a live link just so they can watch us live if they want to. And so I sent like a little graphic of 4 images of you four. And under it I said, "Aren't they so cute?" I'm sorry.
No way.
I don't care.
Alan's blushing.
My mom or grandma would do.
I thought Allon, I was like, being on the older side of, and I forgot what's the age gap between you two?
Like, what, 2 years? 26?
You're 26, I'm 24.
Okay, so both of y'all may be like, cute. Come on, man. But I'm old. I'm 48 years old.
I mean,
all of y'all could be my kids.
Yeah, that's fine.
I'm going to say cute means young. And so I'm like, okay, I'm still young lucky.
Yeah, so that's a good thing, right?
I got ID checked, and they're like, yeah, I just need to see your ID. I'm like, I'm 26.
Alan,
I'm 26.
I feel like you're going to get carded for a long time. That's a good thing.
Yeah. So I'm okay with that.
Yeah, I think the rule is if you look under than 40, you have to be carded.
All right, well, so. That's good.
Yeah.
You think that's true?
Yeah, I'm pretty sure.
So I'd be offended if I didn't get carded.
Yeah.
Hey, it's Lynn Stroy, and you're listening to the Intergenerational Summer Series of the Seacoast podcast. We're wrapping up this 3-part conversation in the series as our Gen Z group gives their take on unity in the church despite political differences, racism, and Christian nationalism. Today, we're talking to Layla, Hayes, Allon, and Abel again. It's crazy to think that these guys have no concept of a world without the internet or cell phones.
I want to know what you believe, why you believe it. How did you grow up? What does your family believe? What's been your experience?
The sacrifice that's been made to be able to go on mission and be able to have the freedom that we have to share our faith on the daily. I feel like that also takes us being an example of what it looks like to live in that freedom, but also honoring those who died and fought for it.
But I hate the two-party system so much, man. This creates like some form of like tribalism where it's like, well, these are sets of values that they have laid out for me, and so I'm gonna go follow these sets of values. Like, the idea of mixing it, I haven't seen that for either one thing or the other.
We're not under God as much as I would love us to be. As soon as you bring politics into the church, everybody's like, well, I'm left-leaning, I'm right-leaning, and there's all of these fights that break out.
Welcome to the Seacoast podcast, everyone. This is the third and last installment of this second subject area of the Intergenerational Summer Series. And I have to tell you four, this is probably the most curious I've been about any generation and pairing it with any subject area in this whole series. Like, I'm really curious what your response to some of the things that you've heard and just how you process some of these subject areas. But about the serious stuff, are y'all excited to chime in on this, or nervous, or neither, or both? Layla, what about you? Are you excited to chime in on these subject areas?
I am. I think I am. I'm kind of a person who's vocal about my opinions, so I don't mind this at all.
All right.
I kind of like it.
All right, Allon? Excited?
I'm excited. I definitely pulled up and I was like, Abel, I'm nervous. I'm nervous.
Yeah.
But no, I'm super excited.
Excited and nervous.
Mm-hmm.
Definitely excited.
Excited?
A little bit nervous.
A little bit. All right, so I'm going to tell you, please be honest with this question. It won't sound arrogant because I really want to know, but do you guys think that you have some unique insight that you're going to bring to the table given your age? Like, wouldn't you say that you've got some good, unique insight, helpful insight, because you guys are in a younger generation? So I think every generation is bringing in some helpful insight, but given your youth, would you say, yeah, we're going to bring some helpful stuff? It's okay. You can bring some helpful stuff, Abel?
I hope so. That's about Joey. Let's do it.
That's a humble way of answering it.
Yeah, I would say so. I mean, knowing some of the topics, I think with just my age and who I am, I don't know. Do I spoil it? Like, I want you to introduce them.
Introduce who?
The topips.
Oh, no. Go. You can say.
Yeah,
people have heard.
Oh,
part
they know.
I mean,
they've seen the title of the episode. So, yeah, like when it comes to like racism, like everything like that, like me being like I'm the only minority in the room, so I am excited to dig into that and see other people's perspectives too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You ladies, y'all feel like, yeah, we're bringing it today.
Yeah, I hope it's helpful.
Hope it's helpful.
Definitely, I think every generation has a really unique perspective. So I'm interested to see the differences of the conversation.
And was everybody able to listen to at least one of the previous recordings? So you got a feel.
Yeah.
Layla, you're going to be bringing it today? Heck yeah.
I hope so.
Heck yeah.
It's the plan.
All right. So I've got some stereotypes of y'all's generation. And so here's the ground rules. It doesn't necessarily apply to you guys because everybody's an individual and everybody can break out of a stereotype. What I'm asking you is on a scale of 1 to 10, how accurate are these stereotypes for the whole generation? Okay. So if I say something like lazy and entitled, and Abel, you say, yeah, 1 out of 10, 10. You're not saying you're lazy and entitled. You're saying as a general rule of thumb, you think that stereotype fits. Got it? Everybody?
Got it.
Got it.
All right. So the first stereotype, workplace entitlement and laziness. Often characterized as job hoppers who lack commitment, dislike working hard, and demand high salaries without experience. On a scale of 1 to 10, 10 saying, yes, that fits generally. You can see that stereotype. 1 being, no, where'd that come from? Cite your sources, dude. Where do y'all land with that? Scale of 1 to 10, Layla.
Ooh, I feel like I'm so on the fence. I'm gonna say a 5 because I know, I mean, obviously being 17, I know a lot of Gen Z people, but like I haven't personally experienced people being like, oh, my job was hard, so I quit, or my sport was hard, so I quit. Like, you know what I mean? But there's also like the few that I have met and so many of the stories that I've heard, like, oh, like, yeah, we just like let her quit because she wasn't feeling it. And like I've heard that from millennial parents and stuff like that. And yeah, I would say a 5. I'm like really in between there.
All right.
So
Allon?
This is tough. I'm gonna go 7. I think some of it has to do maybe for some people that the job is too hard or whatever. I also think that some people are just younger people are now starting to fight for their value. It's like, hey, I just because I'm young doesn't mean I'm gonna accept a lower pay or pay grade or anything like that. Like if I'm good at what I do, then I'm good at what I do. And if you guys don't want to pay for that person, then I'll just go somewhere else. I do think that's the mindset behind a lot of maybe late Gen Z, early millennial, just because we are in the workforce now. And so I think that is a trend that I'm noticing.
All right.
Yeah. I was going to go the same route as Allon with a 7 because I feel like I see that a lot in my personal life. One kind of thing was Asher, my little brother, was offered a job and got a job at Jeff's Bagel Run. And so was I. But when I found out that they were going to offer me the same pay as him, I had turned it down and my heart was kind of hardened towards the job. And looking back on it, I can see that kind of entitlement for more from me. So in terms of kind of me seeing it on the daily basis, I guess it's not too relevant, but for people finding that stereotype and for making those assumptions, I feel like a 7 would be good because that's a really easy assumption to make, I feel like.
Yeah.
And also can be somewhat prevalent, I feel like, for our generation. But
All right.
I think, I'm like the worst kind of person for questions like this because I will always answer with it depends. Like I think naturally I'm inclined, or like in my flesh, I want to not work super hard, get paid a good amount of money. You know, I think that sounds good to all of us, but I've also seen so many people in our generation work really, really hard and almost swing the other way of like having no work-life balance, / start their own businesses. And yeah, I think I've seen both. I think like even just with the rise of being like influencers, I think sometimes that can pose like a different opportunity to make a bunch of money where it's like, dude, all you did was post a video of you opening a box that got sent to you and you got paid someone. But hey, I am not an influencer. So Allon, I don't know, don't come at me. You're like the closest to an influencer that I know.
As an
But,
older
yeah.
guy, I just think that term is so funny.
You know,
Influencer.
yeah.
Wow, you're
Yeah.
so influential.
So I feel like I've seen both. And also just like I think it depends if you're a Christ follower at times, because it's like then you fight to live by integrity and follow the example of Jesus. So anyway, maybe a 6, 7, 6, 7.
All right.
Honestly,
I don't know.
it's funny because, so did they describe Gen Z as lazy in that statement?
Yeah, workplace entitlement
So,
and laziness.
I find that really funny because I think these people who are saying that are typically going to be the upline and the supervisors of the Gen Z people who are doing that. And so I think for Gen Z, their perspective is more so, I'm fighting for what I'm worth. And then they just see that as, oh, you're just not willing to do the work. And I think what that's caused is a lot of Gen Z is starting to bet on themselves. And so you see a huge rise in just small businesses, like one-person businesses, sole proprietorships, just rising up in our society now, which I think is a beautiful thing. I think it's better to support local small businesses because of that. It just makes it better for everybody. So it's going to be weird to see what happens like 10 years down the line where now Gen Z becomes like the supervisor or bosses, because, I mean, we can't have like everything just covered by small business, or can we? I mean, I have no idea, but it'd be pretty cool.
You guys are bringing some good insight. So what we're gonna have to do, because I've got 4 more of these, is you got to give a number. And
Okay.
then leave it there.
Okay.
Okay, sounds good.
I would love, and here's what we can do too. If there's anything that you're just like, oh, I really want to add something to it, write it down. Next episode, you'll be able to chime in. So next one is technology addiction. You guys are labeled as perpetually screen dependent, socially awkward in person, and preferring digital communication over face-to-face interaction on a scale of 1 to 10.
I gotta go 7 again.
This is the worst for you.
I know.
As far as just giving a number and walking away.
No, I'll say 7.
4.
4. All right.
Whoa.
Layla?
8.
Oh, wow. 8. All right. Cancel culture and sensitivity. You guys are perceived as overly sensitive, in parentheses, snowflakes, and quick to cancel or criticize individuals or brands, often described as hypocritically judgmental. You hypocritically judgmental, Allon? Scale of 1 to 10. Cancel culture and sensitivity.
I'm speaking for Gen Z as a whole, not myself.
Exactly.
In this, but I'm going to say 5.
5. Layla?
I'm gonna say 7.
Hayes?
7.
Oh, begrudgingly 7.
No, yeah.
Abel?
I was gonna go 5 too.
5. All right. Short attention span and impatience. You're misunderstood as needing immediate gratification and lacking focus.
10.
10. Wow.
I don't
Abel?
8.5.
9.
Layla?
I'm a 9 too.
All right. Lack of life skills. Misconceptions suggest they are not interested. You guys are not interested in driving, cooking, or traditional milestones like home ownership. I will say that it's crazy the number of Gen Z kids that I see that want to put off driving, and that's no offense. I just think it's interesting because my generation was just like, why can't we drive at 12?
Yeah.
But I see a lot of kids that just like, I'll get my license whenever. Scale of 1 to 10, Layla, lack of life skills.
5.
5, Allon. 6, Hayes.
5.
Abel.
I go 4.
4. All right. Moving into politics, my question for you guys is, and correct me if this is off, but I'd say the younger you are, probably the more informed you are by your parents. Like, my political views are a lot different from my parents as a 48-year-old, but when I was in my early 20s, they were very much in line with my parents. I just changed my opinions on a lot of things. Would y'all agree with that in general? Anybody disagree with that? You're pretty imprinted by your parents at this juncture?
Oh, for sure.
Sorry.
I don't know.
Not sure.
I think my parents, honestly, they just allowed me to figure it out for myself. I think as time went on, because, I mean, I don't mind saying this, but I worked for Turning Point USA when I was in college, which is Charlie Kirk's organization. But I think when they saw that, that's when we started to get more vocal about it. And then, I think at some point, maybe they even were like, maybe he's right about this. Let's adopt some of what he believes. But
Allon or Charlie Kirk?
me,
What I know. What were your?
Wait,
So
what?
they were talking about you.
Yeah,
Okay, gotcha.
yeah. But I don't know. Before that, though, it wasn't something that was heavily talked about in our house, and I think I'm thankful for that. It allowed me to think for myself instead of being like, oh, well, what would mom and dad do in the situation? It's like, all right, well, how do I see this and how do I believe
Yeah.
this? I do think that was very freeing for me.
Yeah, that's interesting. I wouldn't see my parents necessarily indoctrinating me politically. It was more of it's mom and dad. I like mom and dad. They've raised me well. I'm influenced by them. I guess I agree with mom and dad, sort of thing. So if not any other major pushbacks, my next question is, and be honest, how often are you, or I'll put it this way, do you have relationships with people who you'd consider to be very politically or even morally different than you? Like, and if it's just one person, as far as what kind of exposure do you have to other points of view in close relationships? What about you, Hayes?
Yeah, I feel like I'm in a unique season of my life where I've not been living with my parents for a few years now. I'm out of college, but I still live down the road, not married, not settled in. But so I'm like in my relationships now, my eyes are being opened to a bunch of different viewpoints, a lot of different people that maybe have shared stuff with me that I'm like, oh, maybe I thought you believed differently or whatever. I am in close relationship with someone that I would say has very different viewpoints from me in certain ways. I would say in a lot of essential ways different. We've spent a lot of time together. Like, it's a work relationship, not in a previous job. But yeah, I've learned a lot, and I've been able to be in conversations where I've just listened a lot and asked questions and had open conversations with her. So yeah.
And were y'all both able to share where you're at with very important matters, convictions, I would say, for you and for her, and still have a seamless relationship? Like, did it cause any tension?
I would say you can definitely feel the tension in the room, but even both of us have plainly shared, hey, I'm actually super glad that we can have open conversations here and just have the motivation of curiosity.
I love that.
Like, I want to know what you believe, why you believe it, how did you grow up? What does your family believe? What's been your experience? And so it's like a lot of what I believe, honestly, everything I believe is influenced by my faith. Ideally, I know there are beliefs in me that it's like, oh man, that's needs to be corrected, whatever. I don't have it all figured out. But yeah, definitely. We've had conversations where I'm like, oh my gosh, it feels like the air is all sucked up in this room and I can't breathe. But like a lot of curiosity.
I hope, and I almost want to admonish and cheer you guys on. Like, I hope y'all can reverse this crazy tide of polarization and sizing people up and categorizing people as good or bad based on what they believe. I mean, you just nailed it as far as like, how did you get to that place where you believe that? How did you become the person that you are? Like, it's just not as simple as reducing people. It's honoring their humanity and where they came from. I feel, and I wish I said this in the discussion with Gen X and Millennials, I kind of blame Millennials. I think Millennials derailed us. It seems like their generation got into this whole cancel stuff, and I don't know. I could be
Hot
off with
take.
that. But Gen Zs, y'all got to bring us back, calibrate this thing for us. Layla, how about you? What's your exposure to people that see the world differently than you?
I've got a lot of family members who it's really hard for them to have a calm conversation about it.
Especially your
and it's really
dad.
hard.
Yeah, go ahead. I'm just kidding. Totally kidding.
Gosh. No, but like, I know that it's hard for my dad to have a conversation with his dad about it. Like, we've had this conversation as a family before. Like, Like, don't bring it up. We call him Pappy, but don't bring it up around Pappy because he's going to get this way. But like when we went through Hurricane Helene here, which was, I don't know if y'all saw that on the news. I live in Black Mountain, Swannanoa, and it was boom. That was crazy, but totally not relevant. But we stayed, my brother and I stayed a week at what we call the farm. It's my dad's parents' house. And we were there for a week. And it was just me and Cord because dad was working firefighting, doing all these things. Mom was volunteering. And Cord and I just needed out. And my grandfather, they live on like a farm. What feels like 30 minutes from all civilization. It's what it feels like. They're just so like secluded. I don't know if that's the right word. They're very cut off. And his only source of like information is from a news outlet that is super leaning one direction. And that's his only like source of information. It's the only source of the news. And he's just like, gosh, this, and this. And I'm like, that's not accurate because you only are getting it from one side. But like, I don't want to argue with my grandfather. And there were things he would say and I'd be like, hey, reality check in the most gentle, loving way possible. And then he would be like, oh, that's a really good point. And he's a PhD in theology.
That's very commendable, by the way, that he said good point to you. It's very
He's oh my gosh, one of the best people I know. It makes me really sad because it's like people feel like they have to choose sides. And I'm not in a family that's like that.
Yeah, I hate to hear that. Have you experienced what Hayes has experienced in friendships, like peers?
Definitely, 100%. Okay. I am not as close with the people who are super leaning a certain direction, if that makes sense. Because I always tell, like, I have a shout out my friend Emmy. She's probably listening to this when it comes out. I love her to death. She's 26, 28. She's like Allon's age. She's on the cusp of Gen Z.
Oh,
I love
get wrecked, Allon.
Those old
washed up.
Status.
Old Z's like that.
And I love her so much. I'm actually supposed to be with her after this, but I was just talking to her. We're finally like in the spot in our like friendship where, like we mentioned this, we can talk about politics comfortably in a very calm way. And what she said, she was like, I would consider myself purple. And I was like, you know what? I love that you put it that way, because she tries so hard to see both sides. And she's not like, I don't need to be all the way over here and screaming about this or all the way over here and screaming about this. And I just love that, like, I have that kind of example in my life, but also I feel like my dad's that way. And sometimes I feel like mom's that way, but that's where I'm at.
Mm-hmm. How about you guys? Would y'all say y'all have relationships that are healthy, where you stand pretty strongly in very important matters? You stand strongly differently?
Yeah, I mean, I would say so. I would say, like, the one thing that I hate, I mean, I'm not as into politics anymore, but I hate the two-party system so much, man. Like, I don't understand, like, to get really technical with it, like, why is it that someone who is a capitalist also has to have tension when it comes to homosexuality? Or like same thing with like liberals, like why is someone who's a socialist like for like abortion or something like that? Like what do those two have to do with each other? And so like what this creates is like some form of like tribalism where it's like, well, these are sets of values that they have laid out for me, and so I'm gonna go follow these sets of values. Like the idea of mixing it just haven't seen that like become a thing still. Like it's still like you're either one thing or the other, and there's not really a mix of both. Some people are, but I really do view politics in that way. I think it's really unfortunate. But when it comes to my relationship with people though, like I just don't see them for their politics. I mean, they can have those beliefs, but I mean, for example, like my mom's side of the family, almost all of them are pretty opposite, I guess, when it comes to where I was when I was in Turning Point USA. Since being there, I've allowed myself to kind of just think freely what my values are. But I mean, conversations were probably tense at first, and then it's like, okay, well, he has his convictions and I have mine. I still love my family, like I'm not gonna separate or get bitter over somebody because they view something differently than I do. At the end of the day, like, we're not the ones making these decisions, so why do we have to butt heads so aggressively about this stuff?
Yeah. I'll tell y'all a true story, and I'm curious if any of you, especially you two, because y'all been living here in Charleston longer, right? And Allon, you're a little more new here, but we were downtown Charleston, and we literally saw a guy in a truck flying a gigantic Trump flag and a gigantic pride flag. And my kids,
Whoa.
it looked like they were looking at aliens from out. They're like, what
That's how I
is
would
that? I
react.
don't understand.
Interesting.
You just told me 2 + 2 is 5. I don't understand
Yeah.
that.
He's a free thinker.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah.
I mean, I feel like in this season, there's not too many friendships, at least tight knit, that I'm actively engaging in that are too contradictory when it comes to politics. About a year and a half ago, and I feel like I kind of had to step away from a friendship that I really feel like God molded and shaped me in because our views were so kind of contradictory. And I feel like the main problem with it's kind of going off of our last point was people, at least, my age, Allon over here, probably, he's a bit older guy, like we mentioned.
Inspired.
But
Oh my goodness.
He's the elder.
yeah, but they're really kind of going off those parents' beliefs and their parents' political views. And when you want to have a conversation that is contradictory to another, it's like, are you attacking my bloodline? Like, are you coming at my parents because this is what they believe and this is what I believe? So it's really hard to have that conversation where, hey, like let's both talk. I want to hear from you, and it's not just my way. It's not like my answer is the only thing, because it feels like you're coming after my parents, and this is what I believe. This is the truth. So I feel like that makes it really hard. But I've definitely experienced some of those relationships in kind of a new light and in the first way over that year ago. It really did train me, and I feel like prepare me for having just a sound mind, and it's just spirit of peace over conversations that may occur that, hey, might clash versus what I'm saying, but I want to hear from you. I want to know why you think this, and I also want to share like why I believe this.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it's like some things that we have lost sight of is the willingness to accept that we could be wrong about something that we believe. I think we've lost sight of allowing another person to be wrong. Like if we're super convicted and we're like, no, that person's wrong, being okay with that, but still honoring their humanity and seeing them as a person first. I think y'all have heard this come out of me with the other recordings, but I am a little pessimistic about unity in the church, and it comes down to the fact that both sides, when it comes to, I would say, there's Christians that would consider themselves very liberal in many issues, also how the government functions and morality, and they are genuine Christ followers. They're trying to follow Jesus like anyone. And then you have and they see conservatives and a lot of like a Trump voter, for instance, as dangerous people. And then you have very conservative people that see very liberally minded Christians as very dangerous because they're like, well, how can you believe that and call yourself a Christian? And when two sides see the other side as dangerous, then, or I'll say when one person sees another person as dangerous to the church, for instance, well, then the only logical next thing to do would be, well, keep that person away. They're dangerous. They're a bad influence. And that's why I feel pessimistic, is because I think both sides have fallen into seeing like if you have a certain point of view, then you're bad for everybody else. And I think that's some very unfortunate territory that we're in. I really do believe that if we can be united in following Christ, believing in the resurrection, believing in loving our enemies, and believing in the good news of the gospel, we can all be together. And then everything else we can disagree and maybe leave to the Holy Spirit to convict people's hearts and to change people's minds. That's not our job. But even people who follow Christ can be wrong about other things. Let them be wrong, but let's be together and unified. I'm pessimistic because of what I have seen for so many years now, and it seems to be getting worse and worse. Do you guys feel like there's hope for the church in being unified? And you may even have some opinions on, I think maybe there's certain things that we can't unify on,
Yeah.
even if somebody is following Christ.
Can
Yeah.
start and not say too much on it. I feel like it's so easy to kind of be pessimistic about that because no matter what happens, people are going to have their viewpoints and their perspectives. I feel like it's so easy to get focused on that and not why we're at church and what we're doing, and not prioritizing confiding in the gospel and abiding in Him, and the main like purpose of us being there, like having genuine fellowship. So I feel like it's hard to see that. It can be really easy to be pessimistic about that, but yeah, I don't know. It's hard. I don't want to do it.
Hayes?
Yeah.
I noticed you opened up the word.
Yeah, well, just something came to mind. Like, a few things came to mind. During the rally this past Sunday, one of the pastors, Pastor Jeff, spoke on how I wasn't here for the conference or anything, but he spoke on how there's this misconception in the world that the church is dying. And he was like, I believe that is a lie. Like, Jesus said that I will build my church and the gates of hell will not prevail. And so whether that is the perception, like with believers having disunity in the church, if Jesus said the gates of hell will not prevail, then they won't. But I do see what you're saying, like, but I also see it through the lens of Ephesians 6, it being not a battle against flesh and blood, and that it is a battle of principalities and authorities in the heavenly realms. And so, of course, it's going to be like the number one tactic of the enemy to.
She's preaching, man. This is
But
good
truly, you know, like
Yeah.
if this is legit, then that's what's happening, you know. And maybe that sounds super black and white, but what were you gonna say?
Well, I was just going to say, like, when we really believe that there is a different power at work, there's almost some validity to let people off the hook.
Yeah.
They're not your foe. That's not the. In fact, we're supposed to love people that feel like our enemies, but Paul's saying they're not even our enemies.
Yeah. And it's encouraging to be like, this Bible was written however many thousands of years ago. Like, this is not a new problem. The enemy's always been after the church to divide. And when, like, it makes me think of Ephesians 4 when it's titled Unity in the Body of Christ. And it's Paul, he's saying, I urge you to walk in a manner worthy of the calling to which you've been called, with all humility and gentleness, with patience, bearing with one another in love, eager to maintain the unity of the Spirit in the bond of peace. There's one body and one Spirit, just as you were called to the one hope that belongs to your call. And so, yeah, is Jesus who he says he is? Are we there to glorify and worship him? Are we putting on humility, gentleness, patience, bearing with one another? Doesn't matter where they're coming from. Am I curious to, like, hey man, what's your story? Oh my gosh, that makes so much sense why you believe this. This difference. Oh my gosh, we found it. There's the difference. Love you.
Hayes, that was awesome. I'm so sorry. I just had to pause for a second. That was so good. I just going back into like my own faith and what I've known and what I've been learning like my entire life. This world is so broken because of sin. And it just goes back to the beginning over and over and over again of like, you can't have unity because a perfect world gets to have unity. The world that was the plan in the very, very beginning gets to have that kind of unity. And just because we are people who have so much anger sometimes and so much sadness, and there's just so much brokenness in each of us, that unity is just, I don't want to say that I'm pessimistic about it. I would rather, I am, but I also want to say like I'm realistic about it because
It is what it is. It sounds like what you're saying.
Yeah, exactly. It is what it is. And it makes me sad because I like, this is sad. What I'm about to say is sad. Like I've mentioned before, I lead and mentor 6th, 7th, and 8th grade girls through Young Life, if y'all know what that is, but it's called Wildlife with middle schoolers. And we were away at weekend camp at Carolina Point in Brevard, North Carolina. And one of my girls was just crying one night because, emotions. And I'm like, all right, I got this. I can deal with the crying 8th grader. I can do it. So I'm pumping myself up, and I walk over and I'm like, hey, what's wrong? And she's like, why can't everybody just get along? And she's sobbing. And I was like, what do you mean? And she's like, my mom and my dad, they just fight all the time and they can't get along because they don't see eye to eye politically, or this and this. But they don't want to get a divorce, and like they're scared of this. And she's like, and she's so torn and so conflicted. And she was like, what I had to explain to her was like, brokenness is part of life. And she's like, suffering is part of life. And it was heartbreaking for me to tell my 13-year-old friend this, because she was heartbroken about it. And it's so hard to like come to terms with, because with all of me, with everything in me, I want peace and I want everyone to get along. But it's not up to me. It's not up to us. So
The realist, Layla,
Yeah.
bringing us into reality. I love it. Allon?
I mean, we talk about politics and how it goes into the church, but like even outside of like American politics or whatever, like geographic stuff, like just like different theologies going together, I feel like also just plays a huge role in it. It's been something that I've noticed, and people bicker so much about things in scripture that are so small, almost to the point to where it's not relevant. For example, like Calvinism or free will. Like, do you believe in predestination or not? Is the rapture going to happen? Is it not? Contemporary worship. How far do you go in contemporary worship? It's like all these small things that people always fight on. And it's like, oh, well, we can't even do worship together now because we have these different beliefs. It feels like there's tribalism involved in it. It's just the will and the desire to want to be right, which I get, wanting to be right in your faith. But at the end of the day, God is so far beyond our understanding that who are we to actually know everything about him or how he operates and how he wants his church to be ran?
His paths are really beyond tracing, and his thoughts are higher than our thoughts, and his ways are higher than
Oh
our
man,
maybe.
maybe you might be onto something. Man, you find that on TikTok?
A being that's been here forever. Maybe we can have a hard time wrapping our mind around. Just maybe.
Yeah, and so I mean, like, I can tell somebody I go to Seacoast, and it's just like, oh wait, you go to that church? It's like, what are we saying? Like, I go to a Bible-believing church. Like, I do believe that there are some essentials in faith that are absolutely important. That, like, I mean, the Bible is the infallible word of God, the Trinity. That stuff is really important when it comes to faith. But when it comes to things that are so far outside of what the essentials are, that's what people argue on the most, and that's the most upsetting to me.
Mm-hmm. Yep. All right. I want you, and I will tell our listeners if they're not watching on YouTube, I want you to raise your hand if you think that society is getting better, or I'll say society is becoming less racist.
Raise your hand.
Raise your hand if you think that society is becoming less racist.
As a whole, can
As
I
a
go
whole.
halfway?
Yeah, me too.
All right, we've got a full house. We are getting better. And my next question is, because I'm going to say that this is my belief, and it'll be tough for you guys to admit because it'll seem like you're bragging on yourself, but I think your generation has a lot to do with that. I believe your younger generation, I've seen it in my kids. They're like, I don't even get it. How in the world can we see a darker skin as different than a lighter skin, and they're different values? Like, it's like, it doesn't even compute. And just 2 generations removed from them, there's some deeply embedded racism. And and it feels like my kids are like, I don't even get it. Like, it doesn't even compute. So I'm giving you guys credit. Would y'all agree that y'all are kind of changing things?
I think
Because it doesn't make sense to you in a very good way.
Yeah, I think it still obviously is a terrible problem, and I think even for us, you can kind of get numb to it, as in it's not what it was, but I feel like people our age, the jokes and thinking that it's not a big of a deal as it is, and even with your like the 2 generations thing. So my mom's mom, my nanny, went to the first black and white high school in Charlotte. Like, it was a big thing on the news, and that was only 2 generations removed from me. That's 1 generation away from my dad.
First one.
Yeah, and then my dad, grew up in Colombia. All his friends are black guys. Like it's all he knew, and it's just so drastically different. It's just crazy how that is. So I think in a way it's getting better, but it's still just such a problem by means of it just like still.
Yeah, it's never going to completely
it's
go
never
away.
It's never going to go away, but I feel like it's getting better, but a lot of people don't just call it out and see it for what it is, and it's still just is a problem that's kind of marinating.
Yeah. Allon, I hope you don't mind me saying that I think that we would be doing ourselves it's in our best interest to value your response to this more so than all of ours. Like, how do you feel about this?
I mean, if it was like 10 years ago in a setting, would you say that? I mean, maybe, but like, I mean, when it comes to racism and like the history of it and everything like that, like one thing to know is that like when it comes to like American racism and all of that, like slavery in America and everything where it derived from, my ancestors, from my grandparents, second generation American. My grandparents aren't even from this country. So I think when I hear about some of this stuff, I'm like, I don't resonate with that as much just with my family history and not knowing what it's like to have like racism like in the 60s in America. Like, it's not part of our family history. So I think that has to do with it.
Do you give Gen Z some credit?
Gen Z thinks it's something that's confusing because of the generations before it. So like our parents, Martin Luther King time, like when he got shot for standing up, I think everyone was like, that's the moment where this is unacceptable. And I don't want my kids to do the same thing. So I think it starts with them. And then we're just a byproduct of that. And so we're able to accelerate what you're talking about.
Yeah. You give Gen Z some credit?
Yeah, I think I'm just taking a lot in right now and learning. I think it's interesting, at least for my age, having graduated high school in 2020, when that was like one of the most polarizing times and racial tension at high.
Your senior year was during the pandemic? I have to know. Really? I'm so sorry.
I heard, I think that people of class of 2020, it's a meme now. It's like,
that's the worst.
People class of 2020, well, at least y'all got a prom. Like, you never hear the end of it from us.
I didn't have a graduation.
I think class of 2021 had it worse. I think definitely there is still brokenness, but I think there's definitely a difference in the generation now than past generations. I think that sometimes you don't realize underlying beliefs or prejudice or misconceptions until you say something or you see something or you do something. You're like, whoa, where'd that come from? That's not my heart. Like, what? I think in short, yes, but do I think there's still brokenness and foundations of whether like things were built on lies or built on like laws? And I know that
the systemic
racism and the systemic side of things. I know that there's definitely work to be done and stuff like that. But yeah.
Mm-hmm. What about you, Layla?
As a very white female, it's a topic that I try to really understand. But again, as a white person, it's hard for me to be like, I know how you feel, because I don't. And I don't know what people go through as far as like that racism, But like especially with what's going on in politics today, have really seen firsthand, like witnessed it, as someone who lives where there is a big Hispanic community of very, very poor neighborhoods of Hispanic people, just the kind of ways different churches treat them, if that makes sense. Or like how different kids in school, knowing like if they're really vocal about their political belief, treat them too. Like I have seen kids called names by the most country of white boys, and I just internally
am like, rednecks is
oh,
what you mean. Rednecks.
Yeah. We call them country boys in school. We don't really call them rednecks anymore, but we call them country bumpkins to be more specific.
Yeah.
But we just it's so hard for me, like especially being a really close friend to so many Hispanic people. I'm like, how can I help you? How can I, like, I can't help you, but like, I'm so frustrated for you, even though like, I don't know how you're feeling. And it's just so many conflicting emotions as someone who wants to be empathetic. And we're so far from where we were, but we're like, if that makes sense. I seeing it firsthand with people I care about so dearly is so hard for me because I'm so anti, like, I don't want you to feel less than me. I don't want you to feel like I'm treating you like crap. Like I'm not some kind of monarch because my skin is a different color than yours. The only word I have for it is heartbreaking. So,
yeah. All right. Patriotism. Raise your hand if you would consider yourself patriotic. And do y'all recall the little thing that I read?
Yes, that you wrote.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it was
All
awesome.
right, so that's the context. Would you consider yourself patriotic? Layla, yes or no?
No.
No.
I was debriefing with one of my friends today the questions that you sent last week, and we got to the patriotic question, and I was like, I'm just gonna say, I feel like the only thing I had written down was no, period. And she was like, she had a question for me. She was like, why wouldn't you consider yourself patriotic? I was like, okay, well, to be so for real, I am not, I don't stand for the pledge. And that is something that I learned from my dad because I don't remember if it was me who asked or my brother, or whether he brought it up himself, but we were like, why don't you stand for the pledge? And I will stand for the national anthem, but I won't stand for the pledge. And that is kind of, I guess it's a moral thing, because I just don't feel like pledging my allegiance to an entire country and being one of the only countries that does that is fitting, because I don't mean what I'm saying. And like, we like in the thing, it's like one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Nobody in this country fully lives by any of that pledge. Like, it's what we're kind of saying is like, we're not taking a pledge. It's just words we're reciting that we learned in kindergarten. And my dad was like, the only thing I want to pledge my allegiance to is the people I love and care about. Because they're the people I would go to war for. They're the people I would die for. They're the people I would, take a bullet for, etc. But just the where this country stands and what I'm learning, what I'm seeing, like, again, I said, like, I live in a place where there is a huge Hispanic community. Mm-hmm. I know, like, one of my close friends, Sebastian, he had to shuttle his little cousins around because his uncle and aunt were too afraid to go outside because they thought they were going to get snatched up by ICE agents. And I was like, this is the kind of country that I would be standing and putting my hand over my heart and being like, I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of yada, yada, yada. And we're not one nation. We're so divided by two parties, and we're not under God. And as much as I would love us to be, as soon as like you bring the church as soon as you bring politics into the church, everybody's like, well, I'm left leaning, I'm right leaning. And there's all of these fights that break out. And it's like, I just wrapping my mind around patriotism and my deep, like where I sit, like deeply rooted, where I want to sit deeply rooted in my faith, is just, I can't have both, because like I hear the songs that are like, anybody know the song God's Country? It's like a really country song. It's played at a couple of my soccer game warm-ups, and I just get all the country bumpkins angry.
And Bubba's listen to it. Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Country voices.
Oh yeah. And I get upset, and my teammates will like visibly be like, they will notice me visibly get upset, and they're like, Layla, what just happened? And I was like, the song that's playing is making me angry. And they were like, why? And I was like, it's because we're not God's country. We're God's people. And every country is God's country. Like, there's no specific, America doesn't belong to God, and not a single, I don't know how to word this.
You're wording it well.
Okay,
well.
Great. Thank you. I feel like I'm running in circles.
I think it's a lot of good insight. And I think for some of the listeners who would say, I'm that's a little off-putting. I want people to really think about. Now, I have no problem with people who say the Pledge of Allegiance. I would say the Pledge of Allegiance, but when you slow down and think, what does that mean? I pledge allegiance to the flag. Pledging allegiance to a country. Well, what if the country at some point starts to stand against against God's kingdom? You know, pledging allegiance to God's kingdom would make a lot more sense. But anyway, I think this is that's good insight, and I think very valuable to this conversation. Allon, patriotic.
Yeah. I realize how fortunate I am to live in this country. All of my grandparents are immigrants from either Haiti or the Philippines. And I am beyond grateful for all the work and everything that they went through to give me a good life in America. I mean, Haiti, man, like you think about I could have been raised there. And not to say that it's an awful place, but I mean, there's a lot of harsh things that go on there. Same thing with the Philippines. I recognize that. I mean, I go outside the country a few times, and I'm just like, man, these places are cool, but they go through a lot. They go through a lot. So I
mean, just even looking at how other countries treat women.
Yes.
I mean,
yes. 100%. Whether people like to admit it or not, say what you want about America, you're not going to see any more freedom anywhere else. I can't agree with that. I think we have progressed so far, and we still have a lot of work to do. But I can't see anywhere else in the world where I'd be like, well, everyone else is better off over there. There's a reason why a lot of people are trying to immigrate into our country. Like, that just doesn't happen because, oh, well, there's another really bad place, so let's just try to get out of my bad situation to another. It's like, no, a lot of people view our situation as significantly better, and they're trying to move into that. There is a lot of issues that we have, and I understand that. But, I mean, I have to just sit and be like, man, it's not necessarily that I'm proud of the country, but I'm proud of the work that my ancestors, my grandparents put in to me getting here and being able to live a life here. Because, like, that is a true definition of their ceiling is my floor.
And that would even include African Americans your age can reflect on, I'm so happy that my ancestors got through all of that time. It's a horrible thing, and I mourn what they went through, but now I'm able to be here. And it's like I have so much pride in the overcomers in the Black community that went so much. That's just as American to me, maybe even more American than other stereotypical what we see as Americans. And I just love what both of y'all have said, because I feel for me, it's a both and. I really resonate with a lot of what Layla said, and I really resonate a lot with you. And I feel like we can mourn the dark parts of our country and at the same time celebrate some of the good of our country.
Yeah. And I mean, I would go far as to say, like, I mean, I love missions. I have a heart for it. I mean, I would have to really be called if I was like, I'm just going to move out of the country and go move here and do missions there. Because I'm like, dang, like my grandparents, because it's always attached to that. It's like the people before me, my allegiance to that. Like, it's in honor and respect of my grandparents, my parents being raised in America, like everything that it took for me to get to this point, to live the life that I can live. Just within 2 generations, life is drastically easier, you know? I didn't have to go through the hard parts of like working odd jobs to like scratch by. Like, no, like I was given a really good floor to build off of.
What about you, Abel?
Yeah, I would also say probably no.
No to being a patriot.
No to
patriotic.
being a patriot. And to Layla's point, like we were founded on the inalienable rights given by God, by our Creator, of life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. Life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. But and we say we're one nation under God,
right.
But we don't act like it, obviously, all the time. But I still, for me, have a lot of respect for our nation, our military. My grandpa was a Marine, and the way he lived his life, not only when he was during his service, but the example he was to me and the stories he told me, and just the man of God that he was, gives me a lot of respect for not just him, but all those who died to give us our freedom and to live in a what Allon said, the most free nation there is. Like, So that's something you have to consider, that we are truly blessed to be where we're at. We can't definitely overlook that. But also, it's hard when we say these things, and there's even people today that are trying to get rid of that one nation under God, or in God we trust, that are constantly trying to battle that. But it is what we were founded on, even though we're not necessarily living by it, and there's even people that are wanting to go against it. So I wouldn't necessarily consider myself a patriot, and I do find myself being a critic of the choices we may make, but I really try to find myself in a state of gratitude for our history and the opportunity that we have to be here.
Yeah, sounds like some good balance. Yeah, and it's like, imagine a slave in the 1800s reading the Declaration of Independence. It's like, well, that doesn't apply to me.
Yeah, exactly.
Who are you talking to? You're not talking to me. Hayes?
Sorry, I was just, definitions are always helpful too. Like just going back to like a legit definition of a patriot. Yeah, I would say that I'm patriotic. But coming from a place of, I stand on the shoulders of people who went before me. I know that there are two sides of the coin. There are multiple sides of the coin, America's history, and, we can describe what happened in the past, and don't let that prescribe how it should be, or, but a lot of men and women fought for our freedom. And yeah, like you said, being to other, like having had the opportunity to go to other nations like Haiti, like nations in Africa and different places where it's like, man, it's different here. And there are great things about those nations, but also I am grateful to have the freedom as a woman, as someone who can work and go to church and believe different things than my parents, or, have, all of those freedom.
Wear shorts.
Yeah, wear shorts. I'm wearing shorts. Seriously, show my hair.
Right.
Not have a husband at 24. And so I also just recognize too that I'm 24 and there's so much for me to learn still, even after years of history class and all of that. So anyway, I thought it was interesting listening to the last podcast of someone talking about their boyfriend and having, like, being in a relationship with a veteran. I wasn't there in wars. I haven't been in so many settings, and so it's like, for me to give a black and white answer on, like, man, I just still have so much to learn and to experience, and so many people to have more conversations with, like, what was that like? Or why were you fighting for my freedom? And I don't know, I didn't do anything to deserve that.
Yep. Yeah, my grandparents' generation, you had hundreds of thousands of men who were teens who died to stop evil from spreading, around the world. That's like, that should be a weighty thing for all of us. Are y'all all in agreement with what I was trying to articulate, that we could be a country founded on the religion of Christianity, but to call ourselves a Christian nation would have to say that we function as a country in the ways of Christ, and I do not believe that. If you look at our history, if you look at just how we operate on a day-to-day, we're not a Christian nation. Are y'all comfortable with that? Because I was surprised that I'd say even most, if not all, the boomers who I think were relatively patriotic, a lot of them were, and I don't think most of y'all heard that audio, but they were okay with saying, yeah, if you look at our history, you look at the whole picture, you can't really say we're a Christian nation.
Are there Christian nations?
Yes, I'm with you.
Like, I'm just wondering, like, do we have a different country that we could look to and be like, that's what I would call a Christian nation? Because I know of, I just kind of am verbally processing, but like Haiti, for example, might be considered a Catholic nation, but when you go sit in a Catholic church and look around, you realize they're making sacrifices, and I don't know, just voodoo's very connected. And so it's like, you might say something, but your actions show something else. And so I think definitely we're a nation that probably looks nothing like the early church.
Mm-hmm. And I don't need our country to be a Christian nation. I don't know if governments are supposed to turn the other cheek all the time. I think there's times where you protect your citizens. Would anybody really push back and say, no, dadgummit, we're a Christian nation?
Tech
Man, that's so
No.
hard. Like defining it. Like I would say all the good parts of what our nation is credited to God. There are people who try to take that away, and they'll point to the good stuff in America and see this is why we're not a Christian nation. And I would argue it's the other way around. It's like it does come from those fundamental idea of what America is. That comes from the Bible. That comes from Christian values. That's why it makes America what it is.
It's why slavery was eventually done away with because of Christian values.
Yes, 100%. Like if you look at all like the leaders during that time, like almost all of them are Christian. If not all of them were Christian.
But they also own slaves. But that's for another
No,
discussion.
but I'm talking about like people who didn't, like poets and like the Second Great Awakening and all of that stuff. Like that was all during that time.
Yeah. Layla?
I just Googled it before because I knew you were going to ask this question next. I Googled like what country has the highest population of Christians, and I was expecting America to come up first, and it did. But I think in a way we're all going to agree, just we're not a Christian nation. And so many Christians in our nation don't act like Christians. And I also think that our founding fathers probably finding out history about them, finding out clubs and secret groups that they were parts of, like they obviously didn't act like Christians either because of you could go into the slavery thing and etc. But just we were founded on the knowledge that they had at the time and just stuff like that. But as a whole and as a nation, we obviously aren't this entire country is not going to see eye to eye on we're doing it for God. Like we love one another equally because we don't. And yeah, I think we're all going to agree just to that point.
All right. Last question. We'll do a hand raising deal again. Do you feel like on July the 4th at Seacoast Church, there is are you okay with little American flags being all around the building? Are you okay with it? Are you behind it?
Allon, your facial expressions just cracking me up.
I mean, we live in a nation where we can freely practice Christianity. Like, I mean, yeah, that's totally okay. It doesn't mean that Christianity is about America. That's not what that statement is. It quite literally is, wow, thank God that we can do this. There are other nations where people get killed.
Yeah.
100% we can do that.
Mm-hmm.
I don't see why we wouldn't be able to.
Yeah, and the only pushback I have is because there's some people that are at a place where they don't see our country, and it's one of those things of honoring someone's journey, honoring where they're at, and if they don't have that fondness, then let's remove that barrier at church. At church is when all the barriers should be removed. But I also can respect what you're saying, and I think I like how you articulated it.
I think to that point though, when we were in Togo, me and Hayes, there were people, some of the missionaries who were talking to me is man, I want us to be like that in terms of Christianity, where we can practice like that. And I'm just dang, we were in the south side of Togo, so that's going to be a little bit more freeing. But North Togo, that's not the same.
Mm-hmm.
So,
Layla, I didn't see your hand up. Tell us why.
I don't go to Seacoast Church.
No, I know, but you can still assess this church.
No, yeah, totally. I really love Allon's point. I didn't even think about that until he said it, so I'm really glad that he spoke first.
Me too. I like that.
I personally, in my own community, some churches do, some churches don't. But in all honesty, I don't really think about it because I'm just I live in America. Seeing an American flag anywhere is just oh, there's another one. Whether it's in a church or whether it's not in a church. But yeah, I don't really think I mind. The thing that gets me is, saying God's country, but having an American flag in a church is not going to irk me in any way.
Mm-hmm. You too.
Yeah, it seems appropriate for the 4th of July to me.
Just like red and green during Christmas, right?
Yeah, and I mean, I remember being in Haiti on their Flag Day and like going to their parades, and I don't know, just it's fun to see a country's celebration of another year. And I think living somewhere, being somewhere, I can expect that we're going to celebrate the birthday of the country. And it's like also to the point of like, I hear what you're saying about like removing the barriers. Church should be the place where it's like, I agree in some ways that I'm like, man, if it's just like every Tuesday and there's American flags everywhere and it's going to be such a distraction, and it's like, why are we here? We're here for the Lord. I think there's a point to that, but then also there's a point to like, is church the place where you should expect to never be offended or never be challenged? I think it should be the opposite. I think, oh man, does this raise a deeper conversation? Or like when I go to church, I do not want to walk away unshaken up. I want to walk away different than the way I walked in. And so it's like, if I'm on staff at a church and we're going back and forth on this, like, do we not do, who, I don't know, who are we trying to please? Fear of man or fear of God? And I'm not saying it's like, oh, I got the fear of God if I celebrate the 4th of July. It's just that I think sometimes we put so much in, like, people are going to be upset. Praise God, maybe that draws you to a new person you've never met before and you get to hear their story.
Yeah. I definitely think we could all stand to be less offendable for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think totally agree with all y'all. To his point, I wouldn't be totally okay with it being everywhere, but I feel like we're also called to reflect His glory and be a light. And I feel like that's also being an example of the good things we stand for as a nation, and the sacrifice that's been made to be able to go on mission and be able to have the freedom that we have to share our faith on the daily. I feel like that also takes us being an example, whether people want to take it or not, but of what it looks like to live in that freedom, but also honoring those who died and fought for it. So I definitely wouldn't say it's a terrible thing.
I like it. All right, we're all going to sing God Bless America.
Amen. America the beautiful.
This was great. I'm really happy that we get to do this one more time. I really enjoy hearing you guys, and y'all are all pretty darn good behind the microphone, I must say. Job well done.
That's awesome.
Job well done.
You're the best, Shay.
You've been listening to Seacoast Church's Things You Won't Hear on Sunday podcast. We are now on Instagram. Go to instagram.com/SeacoastPod for your one-stop shop to interact with this podcast and chime into the conversation. You can also be a patron of the podcast and receive exclusive content and live feeds of our recordings. All of your support goes towards Seacoast ministry efforts and local presence. All of this information is in the show notes. Thanks so much for listening.